Hey guys, I'm Chris Sparks. Tonight I want to talk about the questions that we ask ourselves. I came across an interesting idea the other day that the only way to improve the way that we write is to improve the way that we speak. So here I am. Writing is having a conversation with the reader. Got me to thinking, if a conversation is just a series of questions and answers, is thought just a conversation with yourself? And thus, can the quality of your thought be improved by increasing the quality of the questions that you ask yourself? I think us in this room fall prey to this endlessly seeking answers to which we already have. We're just waiting to ask ourselves the right questions. We spend years searching, trying to save just a few minutes of introspection. The way I do coaching has really evolved, where I no longer give advice, and I now think of my role as just to be someone who asks questions, where it's less about what I know and more helping my client rediscover what they already knew. So that begs the question, what makes a good question? For me, a good question has three things. It's surprising, it alters my perception, and it catalyzes change. So surprising questions, they take us off script, away from our thoughts that are cached. It's basically a call to action, a quest for discovery, to find out the truth. Our perception is altered by a good question because it shifts our awareness. I like this idea that we become focused by seeing the object of our focus in everything. We are looking for something different. A catalyst for change because a good question casts light on our invalidated assumptions, the things that we thought we knew, but really didn't all along. We are alerted to a blind spot we didn't know was there. So tonight I want to give you 5 questions that I use to ask myself and clients to help generate some good conversations with ourselves. First question, what do I want to want? The trap here is that we can backwards rationalize anything. We need to question this default of, I want more of this, the hedonic treadmill. We want to avoid goals borrowed from culture, borrowed from others. What do we want our days to look like? What do we want our impact to be? And this operating at the meta level whenever possible, because change begins with the possibility of change, that belief in the possibility of change. We infer our preferences, our desires, even our values from our actions. Thus, all of these can be shaped. What we do is determined by our environment. The behavior that is reinforced gets repeated. What we consume signals to ourselves what we think is important. Those around us rub off on everything we do. What do we want to want? This next one's a two-parter. It's my favorite questions from coaching. What would it look like? And what would it take? The trap is that we constantly lose sight of our original goal, and we fail to come to terms with the costs and sacrifices that it will take to get there. We don't know when to stop. We don't have a clear result in mind. We don't know how the future will be different from the present. Lacking this conviction, we sabotage ourselves at every turn. What will it look like when I'm finished? What would it take to get there? What would it look like to spend a year on this? What would it take to make that happen? The difference between the present and our desired future equals the steps to completion. Having a clear vision of the future opens up a possibility of a more direct path to get there. Ask yourself, what would it take? What would it look like? Next, if this is true, what else is true? This comes from improv comedy. In improv, in a scene, you build on what's already there, rather than wishing the scene to be something else. The trap that we fall into all the time is automatically dismissing arguments to save cognitive energy. This way we don't have to deal with these arguments and implications. This is like a mental superposition. We temporarily put our beliefs aside so we can hold space for an alternative view. Think about the visual posture of sitting back with our arms folded, waiting to be impressed, versus leaned in and engaged with the argument, thinking about what the implications are. It's the difference between seeing and looking for. When you're seeing, you see what is. When you're looking for, you're viewing for a lens. You're putting your own perspective on reality. This question is how you build your innovation muscle. If this is true, what else is true? The future flows logically from a hypothetical present. Next, what can I do right now? The trap is that motivation is a feedback loop of mood extrapolation. What does that mean? It means that we can create momentum just by seeing things differently. You are uniquely positioned to do something at every moment, no matter how you feel, no matter where you are. Asking yourself can realize what you're in a position to do. Josh Waitzkin in The Art of Learning calls this creating your own earthquake, because by taking action, you generate emotion, which allows you to take more action. Another way of putting that is, progress is a function of the feeling of making progress. Every action we take changes our position. If I change my position, I make other opportunities visible, things that I couldn't see from where I'm standing before. Every movement allows other movements to take place. If you have no idea what to do, set a timer for 5 minutes or 7, and make a list of all the things you can do, and then just pick one. What can I do right now? Finally, number 5, what can I learn from this? The trap is that when we don't get the results we want, our first step is to protect our ego. If you look for excuses, you will always find them. But if you look for lessons, you will always find them as well. Extracting lessons helps us to not take things personally. Because if we assume that we can always change outcomes, we will always focus on what's under our control. We are the common denominator in all of our setbacks. And all these scenarios repeat. All failures are opportunities to recalibrate. This is how I cultivate beginner's mind, because knowing is the enemy of learning. I'm always asking, what can I learn from this? Life is just more interesting with the attitude that everything has something to teach you. What can I learn from this experience? What can I learn from this interaction? What can I learn from this challenge I'm facing? I call this mythic mode. Every experience we have shapes us in the character we need to be. What can I learn from this? So to conclude, with these 5 examples, now you're ready to have some great conversations. But I hope you don't steal mine and you use these ideas, that you generate the questions yourselves based upon this idea of what will stimulate the conversation. What are the insights that you need to have? What is the quest for discovery that you personally need to undertake? And pay attention to your conversational reflexes. When things go wrong, notice, what is the first question that you ask yourself? Because by asking yourself a better question, you'll come up with a better answer. Thank you.